Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum. I'm your host Faisal Raza and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, Pakistan ranked as the 14th most water-stressed nation globally. Situation is getting more alarming and more stressed because of the climatic changes, as the weather patterns are continuously changing and changing rapidly. Temperatures are rising, frequent heat waves, and the glacial melt, and then over-exploitation of the ground and surface water and underground water as well. Now, overall, Pakistan's per capita water availability has been shrunk from 5,650 cubic meters in 1951 to just 860 cubic meters currently, and it is projected and estimated that it would be 500 cubic meters by 2040. Agriculture is the largest water consumer in Pakistan, accounting for at least 94% of annual water withdrawal, while households accounts at least 5.3% and industry for 0.8%. Water scarcity level is rising with every passing moment, and it has a dire consequences, not only at the food and energy security, but also to the human health and economic stability. With the growing population and increasing demand, the pressure on Pakistan's water resources is growing. India's construction of dams on Pakistani waters and alleged use of water as weapon further complicates the situation. We will explore the complexities of Pakistan's water crisis, discussing the impact of climate change, inefficient water management, wastage of water resources, the regional tensions, and also examine the government's policies and strategies to adequately address this issue. To discuss in detail, we have in our studios Mr. Fawad Hayat. He is the Senior Director, Recharge Pakistan Program at the WWF Pakistan. Most welcome to you, sir. Thank you very much for your presence. And we have Naseer Memon. He is the Senior Water and the Climate Change Expert. Most welcome to you, Naseer, sir. Thank you very much for your presence as well. And online, through the phone line, joining us, Dr. Imran Saqib Khalid. He is the environmental scientist. Most welcome to you, Imran, sir. Thank you very much. My first question to you, Naseer, sir, that different reports suggest that due to the climatic changes, the increasing span of the heat waves, the glacial melt as a result of the global warming and the change in weather patterns and the precipitation patterns as well, the erratic rainfall and the low availability of water and river system, stress on the water resources, then we have obviously the over-exploitation of the surface and the underground water. Then there are lots of other problems like canal breaches we have flood irrigation into the agriculture, then water seepage, the theft, and insufficient water reservoir is also an issue. Pakistan turned to be the 14th most water-stressed nation globally. So how do you think right now where we stand and what we have to do urgently?
Thank you, Faisal. I think the landscape of water resources in Pakistan is quite complicated. It's very challenging, as you mentioned.
It is.
You have listed several out of many other challenges that we are encountering on the water front. Climate change obviously is something that is a global challenge. We are also encountering that. Our water system, there are several issues, as you mentioned. I personally think one thing that we talk very little about, and I personally feel that that's the biggest challenge, that's the population. And when we say that the per capita water has declined, it's not that water has vanished off our systems. We have some rivers that we owned in 1947, except that we had to hand over our eastern rivers to India after the Indus Water Treaty. But by and large, the water quantity that was available at that time is still available with us. But let's not forget that our population was close to 32 million at that time. And now we are maybe 8-10 times more.
Yes, 240 million.
250 million. So at least we are 8 times more population than 1947. So obviously that every Pakistani has got a share 1/8 of the water availability today compared to the 1947.
Yes.
And several other things. We take another social issues. We talk about education, we talk about health, we talk about road infrastructure, we name anything. I personally think that fundamentally the challenge comes from the population pressure. And when it's population, it's not just the issue of per capita.
Yes.
Then the issue of water quality. Then it comes, you need more water for agriculture. You have to feed more mouths in Pakistan. Your exports requirements increase as the size of population increases, your needs increase. So you want more to grow for your own consumption, and you want to grow more to export as well. And then put together, again, there comes the population issue. More population, more food is required, more fiber is required, more exports are required, because you have to grow your economy at a certain level.
Obviously.
Now, one thing that Pakistan as a whole, as every Pakistani, and the government especially, we need, whenever we talk about any social issues, including water, we should talk about population. Our strategies to manage water should not remain confined only to water bodies. We should also think about how to manage our population size. We are one of the most fastest growing nations today.
Yes, it is 2.6%.
It's 2.6%. You look at the data 10 years back, actually, rather than arresting the pace of population, we have increased it. Our population growth rate has actually increased.
And it is really very alarming.
And it's very alarming.
Very alarming.
And this is all official data. Perhaps the unofficial statistics may be much higher.
Yes, definitely.
So I think first thing to me, when we say talk about solutions, we talk about problems always. I want to talk about solutions today. We really need to think about what you can do actually.
Yes.
We can talk hours and hours about problems. We all know the problems. I think one is that we need to seriously check our population growth. Something to be done. It's already too late. It should have been done yesterday. But even today, we need to start it seriously.
So, Dr. Fawad, as Naseer sir rightly mentioned about, do you not think that it could be alarming when population would be 338 million? Would be 338 million. It's by 2050. So, 52.2% in cities, and rest of them would be in the rural areas. Water withdrawal might exceed 100%, because ultimately it's the necessity. So as of right now, the population ranked 5th, and it's rising by 2.6% annually. And it's 3.1% of the global population. It accounts 0.5% and the ranked 36% in the global renewable water resources. Ratio of the water withdrawal is right now is 74.7%. And while Pakistan's dependence on a single Indus water river system accounts 95.8% of the total renewable water resources. So we have already reached the limits. What would be the ultimate future?
Thank you so much for that, Ji. And thank you for inviting. I think your numbers are pretty alarming, and they should be. In terms of a reality check, that's where we are. But rather than the fact that where will we be, I think we're already there. So from the conversation which we've just had, you starting and Naseer Saab mentioning all that for the last 5-7 minutes. So you mentioned an X number where we started with per capita water, that's about 5,600. It has come down by about 8 times, and the population has grown by 8 times.
Yes.
I would want to link that to the melting of glaciers, one of the topic discussions here, and you mentioning the same. So where is that water going? So that's my question to ourselves and to the country. So if the population increased by 8% and per capita decreased by 8%, that means the value there of water remained the same, as the Naseer mentioned, that the water is there. It was always there. We've used more. That means the melting of glaciers produced certain water, which we inefficiently used, and we lost that too.
Yes.
So
yes.
that is something which has to be added to the overall picture and to the overall situation. Now, in terms of the whole point and the melting of glaciers and the overall point and how they are doing, you got to see it. I would actually want to take the point forward of the population. We're the 5th most populous right now. We'll be 4th most populous by 2030.
Yes.
I would want, because you mentioned that number as well, I would want that number to be connected with the land we have in terms of the global areas of the countries. Are we even in the top 100 countries? Our population is fourth most populous. Do we even have space? And I'm talking about the entire area which we have, not to mention how much can we really use today in terms of water usage and agriculture purpose and all that. These figures are honestly very, very alarming. I mean, Pakistan holds largest number of glaciers outside the polar region. It's the glaciers.
Yes, this is very important. Fawad, Pakistan has over 7,000 glaciers.
True, Darji.
Since 2022, Pakistan has been continuously experiencing an unprecedented heat wave, and that touched at least 50 degrees Celsius. One of the most alarming signs is that the accelerated melting of glaciers, as University of Leeds study, I just want to refer, that finds that Himalayan glaciers are melting 10 times higher than the average rate over past centuries. And while Himalayas have lost at least 40% of the ice cover, it's overall over the past 100 years. So how do you see the melting of glaciers rapidly, but on the other side, we are not catering that water which is available over there?
Thank you so much. I think very, very important thing. And it's honestly a pleasure to be here representing a program conceived by an organization which spent years actually to reach to this point, and that is when WWF started the Recharge Pakistan.
Yes.
So the overall concept of the Recharge Pakistan by WWF is recharging the overall thing, checking the rate, the disparity between discharge and recharge. We've been discharging. We never talked about recharge.
Yes.
This is the first time an organization within the country taking it as a national responsibility on its shoulders, WWF, and moving ahead with recharge. That's what we are doing. And we're working on the Indus, which is the 95%, which is, let's just call it the only source. If it's 95%, it is the only source. Let's be honest with ourselves.
No doubt about
and
that.
Then what do we do with the waters? So water has its own importance. Whether you stop it, whether you let it pass, whether you let it go, it has its own hydrology, its own importance. It's connected directly to agriculture, livestock, industry, health, you name a thing. There's no life without water.
Definitely.
And
definitely.
for us, that life is Indus. That's where recharge is coming in. But we won't be able to do maybe more than 1% of what is needed, because that's more alarming. Even if we took, as an organization, years to conceive this project and to start implementing it, we are now implementing it in 3 different provinces. It's a 2-phase project. And it's a mere amount of $78 million. I say mere because it's a very small percentage of what the need is all about. But it gives me great pleasure to say here that at least the ideology is there. At least the starting of the solution is there. We need to build up on that. We need to start recharging the overall things. We need to connect that clean water to these segments, to these areas where I said. It's not really solving any single problem now. It's like the ecosystem restoration. And that's why the focus of this program remains on EBA, which is the ecosystem-based adaptation. You can't just go with gray anymore. So you need to come up with local indigenous knowledge, connecting that to the ecosystem-based adaptation, because until and unless we address the ecosystem, we're not going anywhere.
Definitely, you are absolutely right. Dr. Imran, Khalid sahab, as Fawad Hayat sahab and Naseer sahab said, is it correct that Pakistan gets at least 145 million acre-feet of rain and glacial water combined every year, but we use only 14 million acre-feet of water, and the rest is wasted every year into the Arabian Sea. This water is estimated over $29 billion. It varies from 17 to $29 billion. This extremely serious situation actually compels to have better management of the water resources. We should have the storage capacity like reservoirs, the small dams, storage tanks in the cities, and so on, for using the unused and the wastewater for Pakistan's strategic advantage for the future. How do you see that, Dr. Imran?
Faisal Saab, thank you so much for having me be a part of this conversation. It's nice to be with colleagues. There's been some very constructive discussion going on, and appreciate the opportunity to add to it. So yes, 140 million acre feet plus is coming into Pakistan. I think the figure of 14 million acre feet might be a bit inaccurate. the waters that are coming in are divided primarily between Punjab and Sindh, with minor amounts going to Khyber Pakhtunkhwa as well as Balochistan. But the issue here is more than availability of water; it is how that water is distributed. I'd like to bring in the issue of equity into this discussion, and that is to say that the haves in Pakistan have been getting a lot more water, while the have-nots have not been. So who are the haves? These are the large farmers, people who are first able to get the water from the canals, people who make decisions. In urban areas, it's the individuals who are rich who have access to water. So people who've always had access to water, they're going to have access to water regardless of what happens with our glaciers, so whether there are droughts or more. What is really required right now is to address the needs of our vulnerable population. Okay. Secondly, we've been talking about recharge. So think about, this whole notion of water being wasted in the Arabian Sea. I don't think it's wasted. It's required for the well-being of the delta. Even our water apportionment accord allows for 10 million acre feet of water to go down the delta, because there are communities there.
Imran, you are rightly saying, but only 10 million acre feet of water is required downstream Kotri, if I am not wrong. If you want to recharge delta, if you want to have a survival rate of the Indus blind dolphin, or to have some sort of water, and to stop the sea water intrusion into your coastal line, particularly the freshwater resources underground. So rest of the water is actually we are wasting, because that water might be, we can use it, we can store it for future, we can have some sort of strategic reserve for the water resources. So I'm talking in that perspective. How do you see that?
Right. Thank you. So very, very quickly, the 10 million acre feet, it's not happening. So it's happening on average. So in flood years, you do see a lot more water going down into the delta, but when there are, when there's no flood that is happening, then the amount is very, very minute. So that needs to happen on a constant basis, on a continual basis. Secondly, yes, water is being wasted. 95% of our water goes towards agriculture. We're growing sugar cane. We're growing cotton. We really need to rethink the way our cropping patterns are happening. And finally, I'd like to add that a lot of the water that does go for agriculture, a lot of it finds its way into the ground, and it's adding to the groundwater. So we're reducing the groundwater by using it, but a lot of that water is going down and recharging our groundwater as well. So just wanted to highlight a bit of a context in this regard. Thank you.
So, Dr. Imran, how do you see this? Is the UNDP has the water report that says that Pakistan may reach the water scarcity level by the end of this year, 2025, acute water scarce by 2035, and absolute water scarce by 2040. As Pakistan per capita annual availability, which was already shrunk from 5,650 cubic meters to now at least 860 cubic meters, and it is going down towards 500 cubic meters. So while estimates are that 27.2 million Pakistanis actually don't have access to the clean drinking water. So how do you see the overall picture? Dr. Imran? I think so. Okay. So how we address it, because Naseer sir, whether it's correct that if you add up the Imran sahab question as well, that 27.2 million Pakistanis even don't have access to the clean drinking water. So it's correct that it terms generally that climate change increases the water availability for the short time or for the short term, but decreases it in a long-term scenario. An open threat to the enormously growing population, no doubt about that, because they have the need. Then it has the health impacts, the agriculture impacts, the livestock, the food security, the power generation, industries and development as well. Ultimately, economy is going to suffer. While in 2015, NASA actually revealed that Indus water basin had acquired the status of the second most stressed river, or the river system or the river basin. So, how do you see this whole scenario, which is everyone is jumbling up, and we are might be very late in our actions?
So, sir, I think a robust planning needs good data.
Definitely.
Without a reliable data, you can't plan anything.
No doubt. No doubt.
Now, unfortunately, because of having strong competition on water, we always find the data which has the challenges of credibility. For example, saying that 145 million acre feet water is going into the river system, which is not really correct. If you look at the 25 years data of Indus River System Authority, IRSA, hardly on an average 100 million acre feet is diverted below our registrations. It goes to the river. And then if you look at the averages from 1977 to 23, I'm taking as a whole post-Tarbela years, the average flowing below Kotli may be 40 million acre feet.
Okay.
But if you take from 2001, the dry spell, the averages are hardly 13 to 14 million acre feet.
Okay.
So there's a Indus Delta has been completely devastated. We oftentimes talk about the water being wasted into urban sea without realizing that a precious delta system, which is one of the finest ecoregions in the world, that WWF has worked on that has been actually devastated ecologically speaking. So we need to really create a fine balance between the ecological needs, between the human need and the human needs. Now the problem we need to diagnose, where is the problem? Where the water is being wasted. Is it really being wasted, or it is a matter of some inefficient uses? Our efficiency of agriculture system is barely 35 to 40%. If you divert 100 million acre feet to the canal systems, close to 20% evaporates because we live in a hot, arid area. That's something we can't do anything with. But more than that, about 40% of water actually seeps down in the groundwater. Now, when it goes to the groundwater, it's not all lost. It's not all wasted. Now, there are two components. If it is a freshwater lens, freshwater subsoil pockets, then that is the recharging, what Recharging Pakistan is doing. And it's very important work. We need to actually rejuvenate our groundwater ecosystem, which is being pumped out very irrationally, the least I can say. Nobody actually in this country monitors that how groundwater is being used. This solarization of tube wells, which is being celebrated by our political leadership, also has a flip side.
Yes.
You allow unabated groundwater pumping, and end of the day, that's the finite water. It's not infinite water. Groundwater is not infinite. So one is the efficient use of water. That starts from our cropping pattern, what Dr. Khalid was referring to. Rice and sugarcane are and the cotton as well,
Yes,
are the water guzzlers. Cotton the highest, which takes about 10,000 liters to grow 1 kg of cotton. Since water is free in this country, so nobody actually accounts for the amount of water which is being used. So is sugarcane, so is rice. Even sugarcane and rice is being flagrantly cropped in the areas where it is officially banned. Because last 2 years, when there was a shortage of rice in the international markets because India has stopped its supply,
Definitely.
Pakistan found new markets. So a lot of rice has been exported. That has encouraged farmers to grow more rice. Now more rice, we forget that our water resources already are overstretched. So the dollars we earn from rice, we actually pay, somebody is paying for it here. The poor farmer, the poor communities.
So, you are absolutely right, because the Economic Survey of Pakistan 23-24, agriculture contributes no doubt 24% of the country's overall GDP. But the Pakistan Institute of Development Economics, they have the report tell us that out of 24%, rice, wheat, sugarcane and cotton, these are the 4 crops only contributes 5% to the GDP. While these 4 crops actually utilize 80% of the water resources.
Exactly.
When Pakistan, along with 23 other countries, has been listed as the drought-hit nations, this is overall right from 2000, and there is no change in the criteria right now in 24 years, unfortunately. So if a country is actually categorized as a drought-hit nation, so how is it possible that we can afford to divert actually 80% of the water to the 4 crops which are contributing only 5% of the GDP?
I would take exception for wheat, which is our staple. that's our food security issue. So maybe that's something we can't compromise. Even with this scenario, we have to import wheat from Ukraine, and unfortunately, a substandard wheat that we receive. Sugarcane.
But some of the countries created some of the models now. Some of the countries who were expensively using this water resource to have the food security, they have now diverted it towards the main cash crops, and they are exporting it, earning more foreign exchange, and then importing these food items, the staple food and all those staple crops from different countries for having a lower profits and having the food security as well in the country. So the different models are already available.
So that's the water economics.
Yes,
somebody
definitely.
need to sit and work on the numbers.
Definitely.
That how much we grow, what we grow, where we send. Why do we have so many sugar mills when more than half of the adult population is the diabetic?
Definitely.
So that's another has consequences.
Obviously.
So all these aspects need to be actually studied and debated. We oftentimes waste our time in debating on very superficial issues, unfortunately.
Yes, unfortunately.
These are the issues that we need to think and discuss about with empirical evidences. So I personally think that except for the food security issue, if numbers tell, if we grow more cotton, if we export cotton, if we export rice, and we get better wheat and make our country food secure, more vegetables, then it's fine. But as of today, an agriculture country, Pakistan, imports close to $10 billion on the food items. That's our cooking oil. We export wheat. We even import pulses, close to $1 billion. Imagine the poor man food, which was normally called, has become so expensive today. So I mean, all that economics and balances need to be debated through numbers and discussed.
No doubt about that. Dr. Fawad, unfortunately, across Pakistan, domestic industrial discharge and agriculture waste, especially pesticides polluting the water channel. This is another very huge issue. Like in 2022, the University of York, United Kingdom study tells us that the Ravi River becomes the most polluted one worldwide, while WWF, your organization, also reported that 2,700 industries only in and around Lahore and Indian Punjab also discharge their toxic waste into the river Ravi. And now it's converted into a toxic sludge of effluent drain. So that was the river. So when we are talking about Recharge Pakistan, what about the Ravi River actually?
I would actually call it a shame as a habit of what we've done to Ravi. Just to draw an analogy, Ravi is too big. That's one of the lifelines, obviously. We sit in Islamabad. You look at any of the water streams. 30, 40 years ago, there was fish right there, and now it's the same waste sludge. It's just a sewage system. Right? So that is why I called it the shame of our habit, honestly. That's where we are. And Ravi is there. But if there is no water, and the one which is there is not usable, that means it's more of a hazard than a lifeline. And it's such a big problem that we alone, or the three of us, or the people sitting here, they can't really solve it. But we cannot really shy away from the problem that we need to focus on that. Naseer Saab mentioned very rightly on the Indus Delta, on what is required by Delta, and even all this water flew through the Delta, still it's devastating.
Definitely it is.
So that means something was wrong. And now when we compare that to the particular thing of Ravi and 2,700 number which you mentioned, and there's a lot more which actually feeds into the entire Ravi, what are we actually doing about it? Can we go and question somebody? Are we doing something about it? Are we putting plants which is for our own safety, for our own benefit? Are we cleaning water? No, we're not. So we're inefficient, we're misusing, we're mistreating, and then we're not doing anything about it. So
you are absolutely,
Ravi,
absolutely right. Absolutely right. And
Yeah,
Naseer
yeah,
Saab is very right on that, and I can endorse him because dozens of times I have visited the Indus Delta, and whenever I go over there, it is always very disappointing for me. Because ultimately the mangroves population depends upon the Indus Delta, the fresh water as well. Then our shrimps and the fish population depends upon that. The people who are living over there, their livelihood actually depends upon that.
It wouldn't be
And
wrong
the
to say
fresh
the
water is not
country depends
available
on
to
it.
at least half of the Sindh province.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is really unfortunate, unjust even. And we are not taking care of the humans actually, who needs water most. The nature needs the water most. And even we can just push that sea intrusion from the fresh water, because that is the natural phenomena we can do it. Naseer sir, another issue in the waterborne diseases, as according to the study, 60 million Pakistanis are actually exposed to the high concentration of arsenic in the groundwater. Then the risk of human excreta that is there, and most of the times we have our different facilities, washroom facilities on one side, and we have the boring water on the other side. And most of the times we are actually having lots of health issues because of that. The 60% of the population are actually suffering from one or more waterborne diseases, and most of the people even don't know that they are suffering from that. 60,000 die prematurely due to the dehydration. No sanitation, polio, then dengue fever, then hepatitis. Half of them were the children under 5 years, while 44,000 die due to diarrhea only. This is in Pakistan. So how do you see the overall scenario, that how we can save our water resources, protect our water resources, make them more beneficial for the human health, for consumption, and away from these pollutants which are actually making the game worst for us?
Faisal, thank you for highlighting all these depressing dimensions of our life. It's a pity, the world's largest contiguous irrigation system, we boast about it, but the ground realities are that our children are dying, people are in hospitals because of bad water. We often talk about water quantities, how much available, how much flowing, how much wasted. Hardly anybody in this country talks about the quality of water.
Quality of water.
You mentioned about Ravi. In addition to that, I would like to add another two examples. One, Nala Lai of Islamabad.
Yes,
it used to
definitely,
be a
it
freshwater stream bringing rainwater from Margalas, and now it's a complete west dump. Whole Islamabad flows its west dump into that. Manchar Lake.
Yes.
One of the largest freshwater, beautiful lake system, ecosystem of
It is,
Pakistan.
no doubt, no doubt.
And it's gone because we did not plan right bank outfall drain properly. The RBOD, it dumps all the wastewater, the polluted water, the pesticide and other chemicals loaded water into the fresh water. So rather than thinking of how to save our fresh water, we are rather poisoning our available freshwater ecosystems. Isn't it a crime? Well, Ravi gets pollution right from the top, but the local wetlands of Pakistan, if you have seen Uchali Lake Complex in Pushab, such a beautiful place of Punjab, and we need to preserve and protect such precious sites. I think this water quality issue need to be seriously debated. When we talk about water accords, you go through the water accord, it only debates the quantity of water, who will get how much of water.
Definitely.
It doesn't
definitely
refer a single line to the quality of water.
Obviously.
So as a citizen of Pakistan, the clean drinking water is now one of the fundamental rights, because the environment has been recognized as fundamental right. And right to life is also a fundamental right in the constitution
And
of
water
Pakistan.
is our life.
And the water is life.
Yes.
So somebody need to speak about water as a fundamental constitutional right of Pakistani citizens. Every Pakistani citizen.
No doubt about that. Dr. Imran, what would be your thoughts on fast depleting groundwater resources, as aquifers like elsewhere in Asia, as more than 60% is used for irrigation, 70% for drinking, 100% for the industry dependent different sort of things. So underground water, while in Pakistan the situation is that its depletion is happening at the fast rate at about 50 to 55 million acre feet of the groundwater pumped out every year, and causing depletion of 10 million acre feet water table beneath. So as only 40 to 45 million acre feet of the water is actually recharged through the rain or several other resources. So how do you see the groundwater resources depletion in Pakistan?
Hello.
Dr. Imran.
Yes, thank you, Faisal Saab. So what we really need is an accounting system to address the groundwater situation. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible. Please go on.
Oh, okay. So in the Punjab now, there's a groundwater authority. There are discussions around what we need to do, but this needs to be fast tracked. And this goes back to this whole discussion about equity and equitable distribution of water. So tail end farmers at the end of the canals who are not able to get their water from the canals, what are they doing? They're using groundwater pumps to extract groundwater. So first of all, we have to start addressing the equity needs so that we can ensure that water is available through other mechanisms to all farming community. Secondly, we need to identify parameters that can help address over 1 million groundwater pumps. In fact, the government wanted to have people pump groundwater because of the salinity issue in Pakistan. Secondly, in areas such as Balochistan, where the Kare system has been totally destroyed, there were subsidies given to communities to run their power plants at groundwater pumps at all hours of the day. So our policies have been in a direction that has not been conducive to the sustainability of our groundwater resources. Groundwater resources are our savings account, if you can. So a savings account we should only be looking at it if we are in dire need of water. Instead, we are utilizing it and destroying it. And we talked about quality of water. Whatever resources we have right now, they're also being impacted by the pollution that's happening, and it finds its way into the groundwater. So yes, we really need to have a policy rethink.
You are absolutely right. Your point well taken. Fawad, Pakistan witnessing cumulative river supplies dipped by at least 97,000 cubic meters per second, that is in Q6. So means the water is under severe stress. Despite that, the proper water management is not there. The rainwater harvesting is not much in account. Then recycling of the water resources, then the treatment or the conservation. We can use some sort of drip irrigation or the sprinkler irrigation as well, rather than just flooding into the different farms and areas in agricultural land. So why that is there? What's the reason behind why we are not, like Singapore use at least 40% of the recycled water, and that is actually the wastewater. Wastewater means that the polluted water, that is effluent water, but they are treating it and they are recycling it and use it.
Thank you so much for that. We talked about water as the integral part, as a fundamental right of a citizen. But I think this is the only right of a citizen where the citizen can non-judiciously use this thing particularly.
Yes.
This is the only thing which comes without a cost. You need to breathe in air, but that's, the Almighty has made you such that you cannot extra use that particular thing. Water is something where we go for non-judicious use, and that's the crux which I personally feel is the answer to this particular whole thing. That we don't recycle, we don't use. Why are we the country which is an agriculture country, and we want to produce only the things which do not contribute to GDP, which do not contribute to the economy, and they use the worst or the most liters of water for production of any given 1 kg of anything, be that agriculture, be that cotton, be that anything. Why are we only working on industries and products or agriculture needs in this country which requires so much of water? Are we ever thinking about it? The next race, the next fight is about water. The water is about survival. You become the 4th most populous. Your GDP is nowhere, your economy is nowhere, and yet we are wasting the natural resource we have.
No doubt.
And once When you started the conversation, we talked about the fact that the glaciers are melting. Now we have water in the short term. In the long term, we won't have water.
Yes.
Even when we have water in the short term, we are unable to actually.
Look at the situation right now. We don't have rain from the last 4 months.
Yes.
And unfortunately, and the glaciers are not melting in such a situation when the temperature is in negative. So it means that you don't have water available in rivers and canals for irrigation. And you have, it means that in future, you have the crop production would be questionable. So ultimately, economy suffers, everybody is going to suffer. So the last question from to you both. Pakistan has multiple water policies, like the National Drinking Water Policy of 2009. We have objective that we have to provide the safe drinking water till 2025, and 2025 is here. But that is not available. Then National Water Policy 2018. Then we have National Water Conservation Strategy 23-27. Along with that, we have lots of water pollution legislations available in different areas, but that is fragmented actually. So whether such policies are actually implemented, and if these are implemented, what about the end results of that? What's the reality? Fawad.
Thank you. I'll say just one line: enforce the law. I mean, people in this country have made efforts. They've come up with numbers. They've put in their soul. They've put in every single thing to come up with honestly accurate results and an honest opinion on a way forward.
Definitely.
That is the reason we have these policies. All we need is the enforcement of these. I'll give you a very small example, and then I'll let Naseer Sahab. Recharge Pakistan, representing that today. I mean, we are trying to address these issues. I said we cannot address everything, but we are in that direction. We talked about Mancha, that's where we are going to be restoring the ecosystem. We can't do it all alone. We need everybody on that, but we focusing on Mancha restoration. We are working on going to be building the large embankment structures on water storage. That's where you start giving clean access to water to the communities and everybody. We will be building recharge basins under this project.
Definitely.
That's where we are going to recharge the table. So that means the policies are there. We as a small partner in the overall ecosystem are trying to play our part. All we request is please enforce the law, implement these strategies in true letter and spirit in a transparent manner. I think we will reach somewhere, inshallah. Naseer sir.
Well said. Please.
I would endorse what Fawad has said. The policies are meaningless without concrete actions. We have amazingly shandar policies. I haven't seen any policy gaps in this country. You check any field. We have excellent policies.
Abundant policy, lots of policies, and
Lots of
very
policies.
fruitful one.
Very good policies, well, in a local context, aligned well policies, not that imported policies from internet. But the problem is we need action and we need right leadership. Remember,
Definitely.
we need political will, we need right institutions and right leadership in Pakistan on every front of the water. Just to add one thing, Zarai Taraqqiyati Bank produced a wonderful report 2-3 years back that says that our potential of growing crop available water, I'm saying of only available water, is hardly 38% of its potential. So rather than fighting on the new reservoirs and controversies and fighting on the availability of water, the judicious use of water can actually bring us twice higher of today's produce, only with the same available water. So I think we need right actions, right leadership, and right decision making.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Naseer Memon sir, for your presence here. Thank you very much, Fawad sir, for your presence in the studios. And thank you very much, Dr. Imran, for your candid views and your presence at the phone line. Thank you very much. Viewers, as our panelists elaborated, it is very important that population is actually a huge challenge that is growing rapidly at the fast rate of 2.6%. We have to curtail the population growth, and we have to also implement the judicious use of water, and every individual has to take its responsibility. We have to, water is a precious resource, it's a gift of nature, and we have to use it judiciously with true justice. We don't have to waste it, because next generation needs water. Your and my children are going to grow, they are going to live in Pakistan, and this country will grow because of the water resources, because everything is dependent on water. Then it is important that we have to recharge, and WWF has a very robust program of Recharge Pakistan. We have to support it, and we have to support also the river Ravi has to be recharged again, because it was a beautiful river, but unfortunately it's just a effluent drain. We don't have to, we can't see it, we can't watch it, because it was a beautiful river earlier. We have to revive it. It is important that ecological and the human needs must have to assist in a proper way. We have to get this groundwater accountability intact, because ultimately we will lose this ground resource as well, because you know that we have lots of health issues because of the waterborne diseases. We have to curtail it as well, particularly the water pollution because of the industries. We have to convert these industries into green industry, and whenever they discharge any sort of effluent into the water body, that must have to be treated with 100% green systems. And then also it is important that we have to implement all those policies nationally which were already enacted, legislated. Implementation, and the strict implementation is needed. Remember that water will never come from anywhere. It is in Pakistan right now. We have to save it to save the life on earth, to save it in Pakistan, because Pakistan has to grow, and if we want to grow, we need water. This is all from today's Foresight. It's time to sign off. Allah Hafiz.